the internet, this is what being a student at the University of Sydney looks like. But over the last couple of years, it's looked a bit more like this.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back.
An entire generation of students have been disconnected from each other and from campus life, which means there's a lack of social connection and engagement with and appreciation of the amazing architecture at the university. Re-Orientate will change people's focus and help them find their position again in relation to their surroundings. It's a project designed to showcase underappreciated yet beautiful architectural moments at the university while bringing people together.
There are three key issues the intervention is intended to resolve. Firstly, unattractiveness. As Jane Jacobs says, people do not use city open spaces just because it is there. The site in question, the roof of the Manning Squash Court and the adjacent lawn, is a public space that, despite its potential, doesn't attract much use. Secondly, disconnectedness. Thanks to the pandemic, students have been isolated from each other and from the campus. Thirdly, a lack of appreciation. The University of Sydney is saturated with beautiful architecture, but a few select views dominate most students' experiences, if they've ever even had the chance to be on campus. There are many beautiful architectural outlooks that are underappreciated and overlooked.
In order to provide a solution, the Re-Orientate design strategy revolves around several key tenets. Attract, to enhance the site's appeal through the installation of innovative exhibition furniture. Connect, to bring people together who've been kept apart by the pandemic, physically and socially. And reframe, to highlight neglected views of iconic architecture and bring them to the participants' attention in a moment of pause. In doing so, it forms the beginning of a perpetual exhibition program, in which the installation can be disassembled, relocated, and reassembled to occupy other neglected spaces and unveil more views of less commonly observed architectural moments, while of course focusing on a sustainable approach through reuse, prioritizing the use of recycled materials. Re-Orientate is the product of these core concepts, manifested as two small-scale seating installations that require collaborative interaction to exhibit carefully framed views of two historic neo-Gothic buildings, Maclaurin Hall, viewed from the south, and the Anderson Stewart Building, viewed from the west. Put simply, when two people sit down together, the curtains part to reveal a curated perspective.
The concrete platform that forms the rooftop of the Manning Squash Court is the perfect site to host this intervention. The space is located on Manning Road, a busy pedestrian thoroughfare used mainly by students moving to and from classes, the sports field and Manning Bar. The roof of the squash court, which is accessed via the adjacent lawn and sits above the height of the footpath, receives very little use except for the occasional society-hosted event. The area is reasonably quiet, with a small hum of life from traffic, the neighbouring tennis courts, and the nearby Manning Bar. It receives a lot of sunlight year-round, aside from at dusk, where the tree canopy to the west casts a small shadow over the surface. For this reason, the activation is best suited to being placed here in winter and spring, during the first half of semester 2. Once things get warmer, the installation can be relocated to a more appropriate site. The site is largely protected from the wind by neighbouring buildings and tree cover, with light exposure to easterly breezes. Fortunately, this is the least common direction for wind to come from in Sydney. The surrounding structures present a gallery of interesting architecture. The modernist Brennan McCallum building, adjacent to the neo-Gothic Maclaurin Hall and Quadrangle, and the similarly styled Anderson Stewart building just across Manning Road. And yet the perspectives offered by the site are rarely seen due to the favouring of the views from the main lawns and Eastern Avenue.
The design of Re-Orientate is, again, built around the core themes of attraction, connection, reframing, relocating, and reusing. After all, activating public spaces like the rooftop of the squash court is essential to living cities, ones in which people can act with one another, which are always stimulating because they are rich in experiences. The premise is simple. Sitting on a hanging seat engages a pulley mechanism that parts a set of sheer curtains to reveal a curated view of an underappreciated piece of architecture. The unique form and colourful material palette of the installation immediately catches the eye of the passerby and is particularly difficult to miss given its slightly elevated position over the footpath. Manning Road functions as a central vein for pedestrian traffic flow through campus, and with such high foot traffic and ease of access to the site, Re-Orientate actively attracts visitors who might not otherwise stop. Each structure has 2 seats, with each operating one side of the curtain, meaning one person on their own can engage with the installation, but its true potential isn't reached until they're joined by someone else. It's very much a small-scale solution that delivers a grand, almost theatrical moment of revelation, built on the premise that a real-world connection with another person is required to activate it. This shared moment of pause works to break down the pandemic-driven feelings of isolation that most students have been feeling. Beyond that, it also provides a visually arresting experience that can be captured in the digital space as well through social media.
As mentioned earlier, the pair of installations exhibit 2 key views at this site. One, McLaren Hall from the south, and the other, the northwestern corner of the Anderson Stewart building from the east. The installation is designed to sit lightly on the site, and after a period of exhibition, be able to be packed down, relocated, and reassembled as part of an ongoing exhibition program, or even duplicated at multiple sites. The frame has adjustable components that allow for the view to be reset at whatever angle might be required for the next location. In this way, Re-Orientate continues to provide new opportunities to experience underappreciated elements of the university's built environment, and over time, as visitors experience the installation at multiple sites with different people, they are able to build an experiential collage of fresh architectural detail, as well as fostering an expanding network of real-world relationships with others.
Re-Orientate is built from recycled plastic, drawn primarily from waste from campus building sites, such as the current redevelopment of the electrical engineering building. The more muted colours, the whites, the greys, and so on, are used for the structural elements, while the brighter colours are used in the seats and the edge of the viewing frame, drawing some inspiration from the work of Eco Birdie and their children's furniture built from recycled plastic toys. The sheer curtains, also recycled plastic, are weighted at the bottom to prevent billowing.
The angles set by Re-Orientate encourage the participants to look up and engage with the architectonic detail that is neglected in their day-to-day lives, thanks to the natural human habit of focusing only on the eye-level plane. Not to mention the saturation of university imagery featuring the more well-established views of campus architecture, like the quadrangle viewed from the main lawns. The real-world experience of campus architecture is at the core of Re-Orientate's exhibition strategy. Architecture is best experienced in person at a one-to-one scale rather than through the lens of a camera, the intricacies of a model, or as part of a digital fly-through. That's because architecture is the ever-present construct in which our lives play out, collectively and individually. But we are often not explicitly aware of our experience of architecture and its influence upon us, in large measure due to its constant presence and everyday functionality. It is often lamented that architectural exhibitions are problematic because the real thing is not present. This is why Marcel Breuer wanted to build the house in the museum garden at full scale at MoMA in New York, and why Kate Goodwin wanted to showcase large-scale architectural installations at the Royal Academy of Arts in London the way she did, exhibiting architecture in totally different ways, leaving the engagement with the installations largely up to the participants. Re-Orientate exhibits architectural moments that we would experience regularly on campus when not in lockdown, but in a new light, full scale and in the flesh.
Re-Orientate is simple. As an installation, as a point of interest, it attracts new life to an underutilised public space in a busy part of campus. By requiring collaboration, it connects those who have felt disconnected from each other during a difficult era of human existence, and disconnected from the campus that they wanted to be studying on. Perhaps most importantly, it exhibits one of the most enduring, iconic, and vital parts of the university, its architecture, shedding new light on some of the more neglected elements, with one eye on the future, and which part of the built environment to showcase next.